The collusion conspiracy is debunked. Will there be an investigation into why all this nonsense started in the first place? Plus, will the 2020 Democrat hopefuls ever get their act together? Let's talk about all of this with former campaign manager of the Trump 2016 team. Remember that one? Corey Lewandowski. Good evening, Corey.
Great to be with you tonight, Judge.
All right. Now, listen, Corey, you know, we've got these Democrats who are so focused on the president and the Mueller report that they just don't want to give up. And they're going to continue to go after the president, whether it's Jerry Nadler or Adam Schiff. Does this work to their detriment?
It absolutely is going to work to their detriment. And the reason being is they're going to continue to overreach. They're going to continue to press for impeachment. They're going to continue to remind the American people that they are a party that has no ideas. And all this president does is deliver every time. Promises made, promises kept. Look at the economy. Look what he's done for African-American unemployment, for Hispanic unemployment, the lowest numbers ever recorded. Look, I was with the president in Grand Rapids, Michigan on Thursday night. The reception there was the biggest I've seen. 15,000 in the arena, another 10 or 12,000 outside. If that's what the Democrats have to fight against, they have no chance.
Well, there's no question. I mean, you and I, obviously you, but I've been to several of these events, and the energy is incredible between the president and the audience. I've never seen anything like it. And I think that, you know, in addition to the backfiring of any additional hearings they might have, which can't possibly prove anything more than this long-winded Mueller investigation, I think the fact that they made it all up and that they were so confident, along with the mainstream media, the news cable, all of them, I think that the American public at some point is going to say, you know, we can't believe in them anymore.
You're exactly right, Judge. The biggest losers, in addition to the Democrats, have been the mainstream media, the other networks who perpetrated the story that Trump was going to be taken out in handcuffs, that they said every day he was never going to finish, you know, his first term, that Mike Pence was going to have to serve. Look, they have no credibility. It reminds me of the day after the election when Donald Trump dominated over Hillary Clinton. The long faces on the media on May 9th of 2016, of November 9th of 2016, was exactly the equivalent of after the Mueller report came out and Attorney General Barr gave his summary of what was in that. No collusion, no coordination, no obstruction. Very, very clear. The Democrats can't get over it. And the mainstream media cannot understand how wrong they were. And now they're all of a sudden, they're not investigators. Of course they are. They're supposed to be journalists, and they did a disservice to the American people. They can't be trusted.
Well, and I think the American people are going to remember that. But I want to now talk about the 2020 candidates. You know, specifically, I want to talk about one candidate, this guy, Peter Buttigieg, I think. I mean, he's not at the top of the polls, but let's take a listen to what he said last night on Bill Maher.
The paradox here is, in order to beat Trump, we got to run a campaign that's not all about Trump. You know, the more it's about him, I think folks at home are going to be saying, okay, who's talking about me?
You know, I don't usually agree after I run a soundbite from Bill Maher, but I got to tell you, why don't some of the front-running Democrats do what this guy is talking about? Because he's right. Whether you've got Warren, Booker, Harris, you know, the whole like of them, all of them, every guy talks about Trump. And then even Biden, who isn't in yet. It's all Trump bashing all day. And yet the American people, I think, have to see something positive going on in their lives. Does this benefit them?
You're exactly right, Judge. And remember, this guy, Pete Buttigieg, he's the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, a town of about 100,000 people. And all of a sudden, he's starting to resonate, starting to get these crowds because he actually is talking about things other than Donald Trump.
Right.
And what we know is you can't just have a campaign against somebody else. That's what Elizabeth Warren is going to do. Beto O'Rourke, whose real name is Robert Francis O'Rourke, right? All they want to do is bash this president. But what they don't want to do is talk about his record of success, because he's delivered for the American people. The promises he's made is what he's kept. And if you look at every metric, people are better off today than they were 3 years ago when he took office. The stock market is on fire again. Our economy is growing. People are back to work. We've got a strong military. He's going to secure our border. So if you want to beat Donald Trump, come out with a plan that is better than what Donald Trump has done the last 3 years. I don't see it, but Pete's message is probably the right one for the Democrats. Stop attacking Donald Trump and go find something positive that you can actually do for the country.
And you know, Corey, in the end, I don't know that any of them have the energy that Donald Trump has or can take the blows and the incoming that he has. So I think that on that level, there is no comparison. Corey Lewandowski, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
The Russia witch hunt was a plan by those who lost the election to try and illegally regain power by framing innocent Americans, many of them. They suffered with an elaborate hoax. And this group of major losers did not just ruthlessly attack me, my family, and everyone who questioned their lies. They tried to divide our country, to poison the national debate, and to tear up the fabric of our great democracy, the greatest anywhere in the world.
The assault by the Obama administration and the mainstream media against Trump's allies has been potentially criminal. Trump associates have received death threats, lost fortunes from legal fees, and have had their reputations dragged through the mud, all because this Russia collusion hoax started by Hillary Clinton. Joining me now, former Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos. He is the author of the new book, A Deep State Target, and former Trump campaign advisor Michael Caputo. All right, Michael, you were unmasked. You believe you were electronically surveilled. You also believe you had a human spy thrown at you. And now you've had to liquidate tens of thousands of dollars to pay for legal fees. How do you feel after all of this?
I want to go to Disney World. You know, I mean, I got to tell you, just it feels like vindication. It feels like, you know, the Super Bowl's over and we're the champs. We really went through a lot, all of us. And I mean, not just me and my family, my children. You know, my wife got a piece of a sniper rifle in the mail. It's just been a really dark 2-year period. But there are dozens of us that went through this. A lot of them, you know, hiding out in the jungle, you know, didn't want to, you know, come out and talk to anyone. They're coming out of the jungle now like Japanese soldiers after World War II. We haven't spoken to each other at all in the last 2 years, and I think a lot is going to come to light in the weeks ahead. Okay,
so you feel totally vindicated, but you must
Absolutely.
feel a little taken advantage of because your own government, constitutional republic, there's supposed to be protections for privacy in there. You had a administration wiretap you, send spies to you, unmask you, totally violated your constitutional rights just because you were in another party. I mean, this goes beyond dirty tricks. I mean, this is criminal at the highest levels.
I believe so, too. I believe that a lot of crimes were committed. You know, I was a marginal character in this situation. You know, I was in front of the House and the Senate and interrogated by Mueller, but it wasn't until some of this news came out on people like Carter Page and George Papadopoulos, what was being thrown at them. You know, I feel like my country failed me, but my country really failed the likes of George Papadopoulos and Carter Page. And if you read George Papadopoulos' book, it sounds like, it reads like a novel. You know, it reads like a John le Carre novel. It's a page-turner, but it really happened, and it never should have.
Yeah, I mean, this was a spy novel. And the mainstream media has no interest in it because if this had been on the other side, there would have been Pulitzers coming out of their ears. George, you also had contact with spies, multiple spies. When you were abroad, you were surveilled. You were set up, you believe, to participate in this thing which launched the investigation, Crossfire Hurricane. Do you believe at all that you even talked to anybody that was a Russian asset, or was it all Western assets?
That's a great question, Jesse, and thanks a lot for having me on. As you'll probably see in my book, you know, I named 5 assets and spies that were thrown my way from 3 different countries in 4 different cities. My entire case was a fabrication to make it by Western intelligence organizations, the CIA, the Obama Department of Justice, and corrupt FBI officials, and even foreign countries such as the United Kingdom and Australia and even Italy, who are in on this to make it look like I and probably others were involved in a conspiracy with Russians, but I never met a single Russian during my time on the campaign or even in my entire professional life.
Wow.
That's how incredible this PSYOP was against the American people for the last 2 years.
Do you think that they did that to justify gaining access into the Trump campaign through the back door?
Well, look, this disinformation campaign that was unfortunately propagated on the American people for the last 2 years is certainly what happened. What happened is I think this was completely pre-planned. I know Devin Nunes has recently come out and stated that there was an active investigation into the Trump campaign by late 2015, early 2016. Wow. So this July 31st date, in my opinion, is completely artificial. I think that's some sort of cover story.
I believe you're right about that, because this article that broke this whole counterintelligence operation in the New York Times, that was right before the IG report came out. So they were running interference for the FBI and for the CIA, and those were all leaks to justify the campaign. I agree with you. It happened way, way earlier. And you say in the book that Mueller got you to plead to a perjury charge because he threatened you with a much higher charge of, not registering as a foreign agent.
Yeah, that's actually that's something very important. I want everybody to understand what Mueller and the FBI and all these intelligence organizations were actually after me for were my ties to Israel. I don't understand how somebody like me who's never met a Russian in his life got caught up in some sort of Russia conspiracy. But by the time the FBI came to my house in January of 2017, they were basically threatening me about my ties to Israel. And then formally later on, Mueller's telling me that we're going to charge you with FARA violations if you don't plead guilty.
I mean, those are some serious strong-arm tactics. And I just want the audience to recognize what you just said. George Papadopoulos, who, the New York Times says started this entire investigation, has never spoken to a Russian agent ever. They were all FBI informants, CIA informants. Let that sink in. All right, Mike, George, good luck with everything. I'm glad you guys can come out of the jungle and talk to each other. Good luck.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.